Hi everyone, my name is Bre Salley. I was born and raised in the northwest suburbs of Minnesota. I grew up in St. Francis, Minnesota. I went to high school there. I'm one of four, so I'm the third oldest. I have an older brother and sister and a younger brother. Mainly looked up to my older brother on the sports end of things, and was always out back in Army fatigues, rolling around in the dirt, and asked my mom to give me the same haircut as my brother, and I just wanted to kind of be one of the boys because I just love sports, and then not a lot of the girls were playing sports, and my sister was always trying to get me to dress up, and we would fight a lot about wearing the pink, and my mom and fighting tooth and nail not to have to wear those dresses. We wanted to get the cool basketball shoes, and so grew up loving sports. Played a lot of different sports when I was young. It was a little bit different back then. You could play 4 sports year-round, and that was okay. And I didn't really have to zone into basketball till about 7th grade. My dad coached me a lot, and we spent a lot of weekends on the road going to tournaments, and that was really fun for us to spend time together, and really started to excel. And I ended up getting a full scholarship to go play at the University of Minnesota. I went there for a year. Had a great experience, but actually ended up transferring, where I finished and graduated at Seattle University. From there, I got invited to the Seattle Storm training camp and was cut from the team, got an agent, and went overseas for about 4 seasons. Played for about 3 different teams over there, but missed my hometown, missed my family, and ended up coming back. I just loved Minneapolis and loved Minnesota, and ended up working now with the Timberwolves and the Lynx in the basketball academy. So didn't go too far from the game once I got back, and now I'm getting to teach. I'm getting to still learn and be around the basketball industry is awesome. So that's a little bit about my background. Why I stayed close to the basketball industry is something that, just like any young professional, they do what they're good at, and I felt like an expert in basketball. And diving into being, I think I was a banker for a little bit, and I tried to jump into a different industry why would I go somewhere that I'm not an expert in? And I felt that way, and I also was really passionate about using the game to be a stepping stool to the rest of your life. Because of course the dream when I was growing up was to be a professional basketball player, and then that's your dream, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Well, even if you do that, which is a 1% chance, probably less than a 1% chance, you only get to do that if you're lucky till maybe 35, I think is one of maybe the oldest players in the league right now, maybe a couple years older than that. So it's, what are you setting yourself up for the rest of your life? And because of my background and my expertise in basketball, I think I'm more passionate about speaking into the young people's lives about, yes, put a lot of time in basketball, yes, be the best that you can be, but what are these life skills that we're learning through the game of basketball, and learning how to be a good teammate, learning how to be a leader, learning how to work hard, to have a relationship with your coaches, and all these translate into the business world, into families, into really the rest of your life. So that's where my passion kind of lies, is how can we use basketball to bring you and carry you on to the next steps of your life, and kind of make you a good person and not just a great basketball player. I think it's always failure. I think no matter what industry you're in, or whether it's sports or business or family, there's just always, it's when you hit that failure. And I think a lot of times, especially athletes that go to the high levels, don't hit failure till maybe later. And so when that does hit, it's kind of that question of, who am I? Am I just Brianna, the basketball player? But I think that was one of my biggest things, was I'm more than just a basketball player. I have other passions, I have other skills. I am worth something outside of, these 4 lines. And I think that that's something that it's hard for any player to overcome. And a lot of athletes talk about that, is, you kind of die 2 deaths, the end of your playing career and then like your actual death. And so I think that's a big thing for athletes, that, where are we valued outside of the game, and how do we find that out? And some of us get to find it out sooner than others, which is great. And unfortunately, some players don't find it out till later because they go so far in their careers and kind of have that, you know, reevaluation of their whole life. So I kind of found that out when I got cut from the team at the Seattle Storm training camp, and that kind of, you know, you just go through a dark spot where you're like, what's next? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And that's when I became passionate about, you know, the next generation. Yeah, I think there's always moments. I think there's moments of, you know, I remember getting, there's little moments that I remember. One, getting that phone call from the University of Minnesota offering me the full ride scholarship. I was in the airport in between tournaments, and I just remember that phone call. I remember jumping up and down with my teammates, and then you remember the next call to, hey, you're invited to Seattle Storm training camp. You know, it's just always that excitement for what's next, and then you know, just being overseas in a distant land, not millions, but thousands of miles away from home, and being successful and being independent, and just learning over there was awesome. Then coming back here and then getting back to being with the organization, with the Timberwolves and Lynx, and giving back. And so, I mean, there's a lot of highlights, and I'm still looking forward to more, but it's not a specific game that sticks out. It's kind of these moments that, man, I've worked so hard and it's paying off. And I think that's most of my highlights. I think that what I was really lucky that my parents did was they didn't limit me. As much as they really tried to put me in, you know, some pink dresses, but my mom gave up on that at a young age. They really let me go to where my passions were. I played tackle football on the boys team up until 7th grade, and then, you know, I got hit by a guy that was growing a beard, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's time for me to give this one up. But they let me go and explore and be who I was, and didn't kind of limit me within, no, girls don't do that, you know, no, boys don't do that. And I think that that really let me flourish, and I think that that's one thing now where that would be more advice that I give kids, but as well as parents, as well as, you know, any adult role model figures, is, you know, kind of let them explore those passions and don't limit them on, you know, who they can be and where they can go. And I think that that's what we do a lot of times is, oh, well, you know, you're a girl and da-da-da. I mean, even now, we're talking noon ball. I'm at noon ball playing. I'm the only girl that plays, you know, down with a bunch of guys every day. And no matter where I go and play, it takes, you know, X amount of time for them to trust me and to pass me the ball. And would that ever happen to a guy that rolls into noon ball? It just doesn't happen. So, and I know that and I expect that, but I think it's just, there's still that stigma of, you know, a girl comes in and she's probably going to be weak and be gentle until you know, I cross them up a couple times, and then you know, you're one of the guys. Then you're one of the guys. Oh, Bre, she's one of the guys, instead of she's just one of us, you know. So it's always, there's still those barriers that we need to overcome. And I think where we're going to be and where we're going, and I think we're being more successful as even the Timberwolves and the Lynx, if you look at them with their joint facilities, I think that making those intentional decisions to, you know, kind of level the playing field, as you would say, is so important, and to advocate for just normalcy and not, you know, kind of the seclusion, I think is really important for the women's game. And I mean, we've come such a long way, but I think just to never settle, and just to always keep fighting and pushing and just being there for each other, for the women's game, for the men's game, and for the men's game, you know, for the women's game. So, and just, I think another thing where there's been a little bit of a decline in women's basketball specifically is, I think, in women coaches being there, because so many times, I mean, me growing up, I think I had, and this wasn't until college, once I was in college, I had two female coaches. Post-college, all male. Previous to college, all male. So I think it's important for us to have those role models and to see them now. Awesome with the WNBA, okay, we can see that we can play. But now who are our figures on the day-to-day basis that are coaching us and that are, you know, giving us advice and I think it's important for women now to step up, and I know we're busy and we're juggling a lot of things, even more today with business and kids, and we have all these things juggling, but to be able to go back into your communities and, you know, even if it's, you know, co-coaching or some volunteer coaching, but just to see those role models. And a lot of times, you know, it's seen more, I think, on the female side that I've seen is once, you know, you settle down and start having kids or whatever your next future is, we kind of forget about giving back. And then I've seen it in a lot of traveling organizations and AAU where, you know, it's just higher frequency with men's coaches. The other thing I want to talk about was, I think so much we think, okay, well, you can't coach girls because you have to have a really sensitive side to be a girls coach, and you have to understand that they're emotional and they're, you know, and oh, you can't be a guys coach because you're not tough enough. You got to really get to them, otherwise they're gonna, you know, they're gonna walk all over you. And I think that's so. I feel bad for the guys and I feel bad for the girls because men have an emotional side. Women have a tough side. They need to be, I think it's same. To think that they're not, we don't have the same insides is crazy. I think, do we hit those points at different ages? Of course. I mean, you know, we hit puberty at different ages. Maybe that's the only time that you think about that. But even as adults, I think it's important to be honest, to be fair, to be direct, to be empathetic, to be sensitive, to be all those things to all those players, and to kind of put us in those boxes, I think is unfair to women, and it's unfair to men to say that they don't have a soft and sensitive side as well.